middle of Hanukkah, and I've asked Lior to light our menorah up here and give a little prayer and also a short explanation about it.
Okay, I'll start with the explanation in case you haven't heard. So Hanukkah tells a story of when the Greek conquer, it's the Maccabean, which was a Jewish in Israel, the fight in the Greek. And after the Greek left, they actually looted the temple, and there was not many things left. And there was a big menorah, which actually have 7 candles in the temple. And there was a pitcher left, and it would lit with oil. And there was a pitcher left to lit the menorah only for 1 day. Now, it took them 8 days. Don't ask me why 8. It took them 8 days to make new kosher oil from olives. And the miracle is that every day, basically they say the pitcher lasts for 8 days. So my understanding was that every day it refills itself. My cousin understanding was that somehow they use enough for 1 day, so however your imagination goes. So basically it was a Hanukkah miracle. So the true prayer that I'm going to do, it's in Hebrew. The first one says, let me just, I know the prayer, I just want to translate it to you. So the first one basically pray that we are, it says, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Hanukkah. So basically the first prayer says that God bless us and instruct us to light the Hanukkah candles. The second prayer is about thanking God for the miracle that He did for our ancestors in that time on this day. So the Jewish holiday the Jewish day start in the evening. So yesterday evening started today. So we still lit the 5 candles, which was yesterday. And after I say the prayer, there is a song that we usually sing. So I follow, if you had a different prayer and with different tune in the past, I follow Sfaradi, so my father's side prayers. So after that, we sing a song that we said, we light these candles for all the miracles and amazing stuff that, and all the victories that you did for us. So God did for us to ancestors and through their priest and through His holy people. So, and it's my favorite holiday. Just one thing that I checked, it's on Jewish holiday, which is 25th of Kislev, which is kind of similar to Christmas, which is on 25th of December. So I didn't know it until today. And I was born just before Hanukkah, so that's definitely my favorite holiday. So I'm going to light the candle and say, so we use this one. Okay, I'll need to take it out.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically those candles are only allowed to see them. It's kind of to commemorate the miracle. We're not allowed to use them for light. That's why we have the 9 one. So this one we use for light, so we can use the other one just to observe them and not to use them like function. So. Okay, so I've never done that before in front of an audience, but so bear with me. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של Hanukkah. And you say Amen. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר עשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. Amen. Now I'm going to sing. If you want to follow me, if you catch quickly, you can sing with me. We're just talking about the candles while we're singing about the candles. הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, הנרות הללו אנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל התשועות ועל הישועות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בזמן הזה. There are lots of songs. Usually I sing few songs. I just want to show you one last thing. My favorite songs is about how we came here to drive away the darkness, and each one of us is a small light, but together we are a strong light. And like this song kind of finish very dramatically says, go away darkness from the light, go away darkness from the light. So I can sing it to you later.
Thank you, Lior. So happy Hanukkah. That was beautiful. I really appreciate that you did that for us. I kind of spontaneously sprung that on her, so I wouldn't be able to sing the songs. So yeah, what a beautiful day that we're in right now. This is my favorite day. As you know, it's the best day ever. And I'm celebrating all kinds of things today. I really appreciate the Jewish story, as Lior was talking about. The Maccabees were a group of Jewish people who fought the Greeks, and they won. It was kind of a miracle that they won, because it was a small group of people. And part of the reason why they were fighting them is because the Greeks basically said, you can't worship your God, you have to worship our gods, and you can't study the Torah, and you can't sing your songs. And so basically you can't be who you are, you have to be who we say you are. And so they were fighting to be in integrity with who they really are. And then the temple got pillaged, their holy temple got pillaged and destroyed. And yet again, they had the little oil, 1 day's worth of oil available to light their candles. And they lit one candle, and for somehow in some miracle, the oil lasted for 8 days. And it was a miracle. And so for them, it was a representation that it was worth fighting for who they really are, no matter what happened. Now, we have these same things every day, but instead of literal fighting, I mean, some people are around the planet, but instead of literal fighting, it's more of an internal fight for who we are. Stepping into our truth, stepping into our expression, stepping into our light, shining our light individually and collectively. But Ernest Holmes said, infinite intelligence governs, guides, directs, sustains, and animates my life. The infinite mind knows no mistake. It is never discouraged. This mind is my mind now. All belief in fear, discouragement, disappointment, or failure is erased from my consciousness. Go Ernest, he knew what to do, right? He also said that humanity, I like to change things, by the way, gender neutral. Humanity cannot become either discouraged or afraid if one realizes that there is only one mind, which we may consciously use. The real man or woman knows no discouragement, cannot be afraid, and has no unbelief. And they who know of the power which with they are dealing with, and who plants a seed of thought in subjectivity, knows it will come up and bear fruit. So that's a lot, that's kind of science of mind talk. Like, a lot of people here are like, what the heck did she just say? For those of us who've been around for a while, we're like, oh, subjective mind, of course, we know what this is. But basically planting a seed, which is your truth, your intention, your belief in love, planting that seed in what Ernest Holmes called subjectivity, which is also known as human consciousness, or as Ernest said, race consciousness, the human race consciousness. If you plant a seed in this way of being, in the one mind, which is the infinite mind, that it will bear fruit, no matter what. Peachy keen. Peachy keen fruit. We were just talking about this, John and I, about how Our ancestors used to say peachy a lot. Well, they used to work in the orchards, in the orchard fields. So when the peaches bore fruit, right, everything was peachy. Everything's just peachy. Smells delicious, bearing fruit, right? So as we plant the seeds into the mind of the Infinite One, into the mind of God, of who we truly are, that it always bears fruit, always. But we have to be willing to plant those seeds. And this causes me to bring us to the idea of the hero's journey. The hero's journey. Now, each and every one of you are on a hero's journey. And I love this because Jean Houston, I've studied with her some, and she talks about the hero's journey. And she's actually made a video game with, I think, Deepak Chopra about using consciousness to play this video game. And it's a hero's journey game, and everybody picks an avatar. But the truth is that each and every one of us is an avatar in the hero's journey of our life. We are the person who takes on this mantle of this life, taking on this body and this form and this time period, going off into the wilderness, going off into some place and having an experience. So the hero's journey starts with a call. Now, usually the call comes whenever our lives are, I'm going to just say, mediocre. Have you ever felt like you haven't had passion in your life? Maybe there's a certain area that's kind of like meh. Maybe your relationship. Maybe your career, maybe you're just going to the old job day after day after day. But I want to encourage you to think about that hero's journey, because it takes that mediocre life to cause the call to come forth. So something in your life is pushing against you to cause that call to inspire you to greatness. To be inspired to greatness. And maybe you're in a life transition. Maybe somebody passed in your life, or maybe you're retired now. Well, what is life all about now that I'm retired? Or what is life all about now that I don't have kids to raise? It's because each and every one of you was destined with that call for greatness. Now, greatness doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be, the president of anything. Greatness is an everyday thing. And it comes from within. So what happens on this hero's journey, when we have this kind of mundane experience, we have this call to adventure. Something, somewhere, somebody shows us there's another place, another way, another opportunity. And this is like the Maccabees. They were unhappy with the fact that they had to live a certain way, or they had to not be their true self. That made them unhappy. And so they felt a call to greatness, a call to step out and to do something different. But sometimes we refuse that call because it's scary. We're afraid of the risk. We're afraid. I have a friend who's in a relationship, and the relationship is comfortable, but it's not their dream relationship. And they stay in the relationship because it's comfortable. But if I leave this relationship, then I don't know. I mean, here I'm guaranteed a relationship. Maybe it's okay, but at least I'm guaranteed. But if I step out into this unknown, it's not guaranteed anymore. But what if we step out into that? Like me, I worked at Stanford University. Now, I have to say, I did love my job at Stanford. However, it wasn't my dream job. This is my dream job. Right. And so I was working at Stanford, getting paid really well. Amazing benefits. I love Stanford. If you want to look for a job there, I encourage you. It's an amazing place to work. But at the same time, there was something inside of me that wanted even more, even greater. And so I'm running these two paths. I'm a minister running this center, and I'm working full-time at Stanford University. And there comes a point where I'm like, I have to make a choice. Now, am I going to choose to leave the comfort of this job? Am I going to choose to leave the comfort of the security zone and step into being a minister full-time, which will not guarantee necessarily that I will make it? It won't guarantee that I will get paid well. None of that is guaranteed. But inside of me, I knew, how can I teach this thing if I'm not willing to do what I teach? I have to take the risk. I have to. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be living in integrity with who I am. If I didn't step into that fullness of my being and say, at least I tried. At least I tried and failed, or at least I tried and succeeded, which is what is happening right now. But at least I tried. I would be living my life, and I'd have that regret way back there. I don't want to live a life of regrets. I don't. But it's scary out in the wilderness. It's scary. So as we have this call, we cross the threshold, we take the risk. And there's an energy that moves us beyond. So this is the hero's journey. This is your journey. And the interesting thing is that we find a new world as a hero on our journey. And we find new challenges, new tasks, new fears, new temptations. I question myself, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. I don't know how to do this. Doubts and easy ways out distract us from our true path. But then we find friends who support us on our journey. We find people who believe in us. There's a whole community of people who believe in you right here. And they may have never met you, but I can tell you they believe in you. So if you're finding fear and you want to speak about your hero's journey, this is the place to do it as a safe place. Because they will tell you, I believe in you. I see you. I know who you are. I know that you are a woman of greatness, that you are a man of greatness. And often we meet a mentor or a wise person who's actually been there before. They've put the path out before. They've been there. And they can guide us. But even though we have a mentor, we still have to do it alone. But we're not really alone. But it's like nobody's going to know your situation. Every situation's going to be different. So even though your mentor has done this type of thing before, they're never going to do it the way that you do it. So you still have to do it courageously. And inevitably, challenges come into your experience. 2 years ago, I had to tell the leadership council, either we make enough money to pay me something worthwhile, or I'm going to have to leave. And I don't want to leave. And the leadership council said, we're not going to have that. We're not going to make that happen. We're going to make sure we believe in what's happening enough in this community that we're going to create it. We're all going to invest not only ourselves, but our prayers, our intentions. We're going to dream about each and every person walking in that door. And we are creating that right now. So we learn to survive in this new world. We develop new tools and ways of being as we overcome obstacles. And then we reach our destination, the ultimate, right? I always wanted to have a master's degree, and I get my master's degree. Dun, da, da. I always wanted to become a minister. I became a minister. Dun, da, da. I've gotten to my destination. And then we are back where we started from at our destination, but then we're a different person. We're transformed. Because the ultimate gift is the insight gained about this whole new world and the self. Knowing our true potential, who we really are. And we have been transformed. And so we go on this adventure, and regardless of where it takes us, it doesn't matter, because what happens is what happens inside. That's what happens on this adventure called life. We become the master of two worlds, better equipped for our next hero's journey. Because once one completes, another one begins. But we have to be willing to continue to step forward courageously. I really love that hero's journey and that each and every one of us is doing that, because I have this, this is the book of the month, Braving the Wilderness. Stepping out into the wilderness. Our theme is a life of courage. A life of courage. And Brene has this amazing acronym for braving. And this is pretty big. She says, braving, B-R-A-V-I-N-G. Braving stands for boundaries. So this is how you go on your hero's journey, is you utilize these tools that I'm going to give you as you step forward into the wilderness, into your own hero's journey. You create boundaries. So boundaries are huge. In a nutshell, she says, they help us let the good stuff in and keep the bad stuff out. Bad stuff being people, experiences, information, and emotional states. We have boundaries. I will only tolerate so much abuse. It's not okay. Now there's women all around this country that are coming forth and starting to say it's not okay. Even though previously their boundaries were crossed, they're starting to come into their power of saying it's not okay. Now this is a big thing for me. I know that oftentimes in life, like I can say things, but then it comes to the real scary part of actually being in integrity with my boundaries, and that hasn't always been. I didn't learn that very well, and maybe some other people didn't learn boundaries very well either. To allow people, because I'm nice, this is true. So I'm a nice person, and I'm kind, and I'm compassionate, and then some people try and take advantage of that fact. And it happens. So for instance, I'm in Egypt, and there was many, many wonderful things that happened to me in Egypt. I really, really, really loved it. And then I went over to this, I was in this marketplace, and I bought I bought some stuff from this one vendor, and he's like, "Oh, can I take your picture?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I stand next to him, and he stands next to me. He's very polite, and his friend takes my picture, and then his friend's like, "Oh, can I have one too?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So his friend wraps his arm around me and then goes down and grabs my butt. And I was like, no, that's not okay. But then I stood and took the picture. And then I was like, "Oh, thanks," and I left. And I'm really upset at myself that I didn't say anything stronger than no. I said, "Oh, no," and I even allowed him to take my picture. And I'm really upset that I allowed somebody to cross my boundaries and I didn't tell him how inappropriate it was. And that's been a habit in my life. When I was a little kid, I had a best guy friend. I must have been like 5 or 6. And he said, "Oh, my older brother wants to give you this whole drawer full of nerds if you'll do this thing." And I was like, "Cool, I love nerds. I'll go do that," right? So I go into their room, into his little fort, and his older brother wanted me to do inappropriate things to him, which I did. And then I felt very icky afterwards. But I was like 5. And his older brother was maybe 12 or 13. And it's inappropriate. And I don't think I've spoken about that publicly ever. And that's just one of many, many, many experiences I've had throughout my life. Because I'm in this body. It's a woman's body. And I can tell you that 1 out of 3 women have been raped. So if you're sitting in this room and you look at all the women around you, you can figure out how many women in this room have been raped. And it's not okay. But we have to be strong with our boundaries. And I've always had that point where I'm too nice. But I'm sick of it. And I'm going to start being very firm. It's not okay to touch me inappropriately. I don't care if you like how anything looks. You can compliment me. You can look, but you cannot touch. You cannot touch. So braving. The second thing from Brene is reliability. Doing what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. Being aware of our strengths and limitations and acting accordingly. And so now I have to be in integrity with what I just told you. So if anything happens to me, it's a new opportunity, right? This is universe going, here's a new opportunity for you to step into your boundaries. Yay. And also whenever I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm there. I commit to it. And if I can't commit to it and I notice I can't commit to it over and over, maybe I need to renegotiate because I'm not being reliable. And I need to make a new deal with myself. Anybody who's not reliable, that has to do with them. It has to do with their own inner integrity. Accountability, taking ownership for our behavior, including making amends when we make mistakes. And I've made mistakes. And I will admit it. Humility is one of the most amazing things to ever happen. Humility will change our world. If we all can embrace that. I encourage you, if you realize that you've made a mistake somewhere, somehow, go tell the person, I'm sorry. Make amends. It'll unburden your heart. Unburden your soul. Boundaries, reliability, accountability, BRA. V, vault. This is similar to boundaries, but it's important to warrant its own category. Brene describes this as not sharing experiences that are not ours to share. In other words, it's about refraining from gossip, demonstrating empathy for other people, and not getting sucked into drama-driven situations. So, for instance, Brene talks about how, let's say you have a boss or something, or a coworker, and they're the person that you can go to get all the gossip, to get all the dirt on everybody, right? But the thing about them is whenever that person shares with you all the gossip, you can't trust them. So anytime you're the one sharing the gossip, people know they can't trust you because it's not in the vault. It's not in the vault. If you can keep your vault, you can keep your trustworthiness. It's really important. The next thing is integrity, which is what we've been talking about all month. Yay! When our actions match our words, and when we practice our values instead of just professing them. It means choosing courage over comfort. And for non-judgment, being able to ask for what we need and to talk about how we feel without being judged, and vice versa for other people. So on Thursday, I went to a Women's March workshop that was on blind spots and privilege. And it was really beautiful. There was probably, I'd say maybe 60 people in the room, which was wonderful. And there was one Muslim woman. And she publicly shared this. This isn't something that she shared in confidence. She publicly shared, she said, as a Muslim woman, I noticed that I'm the only Muslim woman here. And she's like, I'm upset, and I'm also noticing that my experience is that people who come to me, they want to help. They want to say, oh, I believe in you as a Muslim woman, and I want to support you. But then they're too afraid to get close because they don't know what to say. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to behave around me. And so they say those things, but then they're like at a distance because they're not willing to be close enough. She said, you have to get to know me. You have to be willing to make friends, not allies. You have to be willing to get down and dirty and know what my business is and know what my heart says. So I want to encourage you, if there's people who are different than you, I want you to go and make those conversations, and it's okay if you stumble and you fall and you make mistakes, because if you say something like, hey, Vanessa, I want to get to know you, and I want to know more about you and your history and your culture, but I'm a little afraid I might say something wrong. I might offend you. Will you still talk to me about it? Vanessa says, absolutely. Because there's a willingness, again, to be humble, but it's also courageous. It's courageous to be vulnerable. That's a really big thing that Brene talks about in braving. In order to have courage, you have to be vulnerable. They don't go separate. Courage equals vulnerability. And the last thing is generosity. Extending the most generous interpretation possible to the intentions, words, and actions of others. So assume the best of others. That's braving. So you can do this and start asking these questions to yourself. B for boundaries. Did I respect my own boundaries? Was I clear about what's okay and what's not okay? R, was I reliable? Did I do what I was going to say I was going to do? A, did I hold myself accountable? V, did I respect the vault and share accordingly? I, did I act for my integrity? N, did I ask for what's needed? Was I non-judgmental about needing help? And G, was I generous towards myself and generous towards others? You see, I want this community to march on January 20th for the Women's March. This is a march for equality. This is not a protest. Now, some people may couch it as such, but that's not what it is. This is what the Women's March is about. On January 20th, 2018, Women's March Bay Area will unite in San Jose and San Francisco to reaffirm to our commitment to building a positive and just future for all. This rally is designed to engage and empower all people to support women's rights, human rights, social and environmental justice, and to encourage participation in the 2018 election. It has nothing to do with anybody, any political person. This has to do with our rights as human beings. So I'm stepping out into the wilderness because it's uncomfortable for me to ask for your help and to march with me on January 20th, but I'm going to do that. And I'm going to encourage you, no matter who you are, man, women, whatever race or ethnicity, whatever age, to come march with me and be brave out into the wilderness of standing for human rights, because I think it's really important. And so I encourage you to ask yourself, how can I practice braving? How can I step into the wilderness of my hero's journey? And what am I willing to do to be authentic and integrity with myself? How am I willing to be? Am I willing to see the best in you? Am I willing to step into an area that's uncomfortable and speak up for myself? Am I willing to love you and I enough to assume the best? And I think I am this week, but I'm going to encourage you to do that this week. Are you willing to do that with me this week?
Yes.
Are you willing to speak up for yourself this week?
Yes.
Are you willing to love your body this week?
Yes.
Are you willing to love our body of humanity this week?
Yes.
No matter how they show up? All right. So let's do this together. Let's be brave. Let's walk out into the wilderness, and let's have the best week ever. And so it is. Let's pray. I'm so grateful to know that our ancestors are here in this room. I call forth the energies of Jesus, of Buddha, of Dr. Martin Luther King, Maya Angelou. I call forth the energies of all the people who have stood for human rights and love everywhere across the globe, those who are alive and those who are not. And I know that there is something awakening within me that is about a sense of evolution. It is a revolution that's a love-olution. It is something about love that is compelling me to step forward, to speak up, and to allow myself to be heard as a point of inspiration for each and every person around me. I declare this for myself, and I declare this for each and every person who's hearing these words, that something is ignited and on fire, that our lights combined together is like a force for love. It is the warm fuzzy that is contagious, but it is a passionate flame of love. And it opens each and every one of us to see and know what we haven't seen and known before, to be aware of our privilege, to be aware of our blind spots, to be aware of the places that we haven't been willing to see, to look at our shadow side, to see the shadow of our country and love it, to know that it's all fear that's now dissipating. and that something is coming forth within each and every one of us that is shattering that glass ceiling for everybody. And what's above the glass ceiling? The infinite sky of love, of light, the stars. And as I step forward, reaching forth into that way of beingness, I know and claim that I am guided to the right and perfect words. I am guided to the right and perfect things to say. I'm guided to the right and perfect circumstances that allow me to step forward into my greatness, step forward into the wilderness, and know that no matter what, even though I think I'm alone, I am never alone. Because 1 plus God is a majority. And I am here with the divine in me, through me, around me, at my side, and it has laid the path before me. It has cleared away the weeds. And so I walk forward into that path right here and right now, knowing that it is the emblazoned path of life that fills me with courage and peace and grace. And so as I surrender into that truth, I know that all is well. That there is some good that is happening in me and through me and around me. And it manifests in this planet in ways that I can't even imagine. I see the coincidences, I see the connections, I see so much unfold before me that I'm filled with that gratitude, that realization that the infinite, the beloved, is so good. It touches my heart and my soul, my beingness. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. So I release this prayer, letting it go, sitting in that gratitude and knowing it is already done. And so it is.
So it is.
Blessed be.